Mm.
And I mean, especially since it's been in my inbox for a week and I'm running around, I don't know. I just feel like that's how it's been the last 2 weeks. I feel like I've been running around
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
instead of paying attention to the writing on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you think any of this is helpful for your team, man, I'm welcome. I'm happy to give you access to them too. So,
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to kind of be a must. And I mean, like I said, clearly things are moving forward and, there's obviously been some results and things are good. Yeah, well, things are not as good as they could be. So that's just why I want to pay attention, like, in those emails that I sent you yesterday. So, yeah, no, but I mean, I think the content, and then again, managing the budget, I think is just something that it consistently is there. It's like, it's like, it's kind of, I don't know, it's a weird experience, right? Like when you hear somebody say that 50 deals is like a benchmark of good, and I guess I don't know if it's because of our price point or what. I mean, 50 deals just because I guess it's the difference of possibly owning a brokerage and launching a company.
mm-hmm.
I mean, as you know, if I don't do that many, more than that many, I'm gonna be broke, more than broke.
Right, right. Um, hmm. Um, Hold on real quick. Let me send her. Somebody's trying to get in, and she says she doesn't have access to the group. Um, hold on, hold on. Message. All right, let's try this. All right, check again. Dun 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 dun. Okay, so you're still in week one, right? You haven't even got to week two yet.
In the modules, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm only in week one.
Okay, so here's the progression. I want to go over the progression of the modules because this might be very helpful with you with your team. Like if you decide to give your team access to this, and to maybe just say, okay, look, this is something that we're gonna do. And for me, I would love, love, love your feedback and your team's feedback, so we can really make this something that's like amazing, right? Um, so um, as we progress, the goal is to get people upwards of 1,500 dials a week, but managing it in a short period of time. And
Okay.
um, if people are able to achieve that, right, then as you know, the results are going to show up, and then it teaches how to. Then we'll go into how to. We're going to go into the listing presentation, how to create value, how to position yourself so you're not discounting your commission,
Hmm.
and then we get into how do you hire somebody to lead generate alongside of you. So it's kind of the double down effect. Um,
Okay.
but I think for you being on a team, this might be a great leverage point for you. Because sometimes when they hear it from you over and over and over again, people become deaf to it, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. It's kind of you know, it's it it's the difference between it's like almost like a mom dad situation where
mhm.
somebody else tells them the same thing mom dad told them, however they hear it differently.
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, well, like I know we touched on that. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but absolutely. Angel and Kelly are certainly hungry. Lori obviously is vested. I mean, there's many people around me, and I mean, it's like I mean, it's small, but it's not that small, especially as close knit as a lot of us work together. I mean, there's 11 of us, really 10 of us that work, well, 9 of us that work, fairly close together. I'm literally 50% of their business, and helping them grow, and all those things, which is one of my struggles too, because the amount of time that gets involved in that.
Yeah, Yep. Hey, let me just note. Hey, Sean, I see that you logged in. If you want to talk or anything, just go ahead and if you click on the little hand thing, it'll show that you're kind of raising your hand. I believe that's located um, under maybe attendees there. I'm trying to find where it's at, where it shows you can raise your hand, and then I'll be happy to unmute you. Oh, there you go. Cool. Hey, Elliot, I'm going to jump over to Sean real quick, and
Cool.
he's got a question. And Kristen, I see you're logged in too. Again, if you have a question, just go ahead and pose in there that you have a question or something, and then we'll get to you. So, oh, Sean is testing it. Okay, cool, Sean. All right, so Elliot, let's since you have a lot of experience in this, Elliot, so let's kind of talk about for a minute. You sent me some numbers this week with conversion
Hmm.
on your calls.
Yep.
So I'm curious to, and I'm sure the others in the group, let's kind of flush out the questions that you had, because I think that'll be helpful.
Okay.
So, so I think one of the emails you sent me, um, it said that you had made 500 dials and didn't set an appointment, right?
Yeah, well, between the two dialers, they are for the last week plus, we've been hitting 500 dials a day, um, per Mojo measurement, and it's kind of like getting clear with the both of them what they're considering a contact. So that was something that I noticed yesterday, that somebody, one of the dialers, Brian, who he's making a contact. If he has a good conversation with them, he's marking that as a contact, and then he's marking a do not call again if they're like saying, hey, take me off of your list, I'm not interested, kind of thing. And he's marking that as a do not contact again, where so then like that one I sent you on the numbers on him, for last week, which there was 1,008 dials made by him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that I mean, there was lots of leads that were created and things that I know that will be pulled to harvest to an appointment over the next 3 weeks. However, as far as like an immediate appointment set, as we've seen both sides of it, where a couple weeks ago, it seemed like it was almost hard to keep up with the appointments that were being set, and
Mm-hmm.
then especially with building the pieces, and then just kind of like the ebb and the flow of it. So is wanting to pay attention to the script, what's working, working with him on how to close. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I'm noticing right now with the ISA. They're getting through the script good. They're sounding good, building good relationship. Yet they're not closing hard enough or appropriately.
Right, they're not closing for the appointment. Okay. Well, and what's interesting is looking at those numbers you sent. 300 and it said 388 dials and 13 leads, 0 appointments. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I saw out of that. So that ratio is interesting. What did you find interesting about that ratio? The 388 to 13 leads to no appointments. What was your observation of that?
Well, I honestly didn't even pay attention to the 388. I looked at the bottom of the grand total because, I mean, are you looking at the, man, for the record, because I think the way that breakdown or that scorecard does in Mojo, it shows the grand total of 1,008 at the bottom.
Yeah.
However, there was, and I guess I can pull it up here and look at it. However, there was like a bunch of messages left, which was a huge notice to me. It shows me how little people answer the phone and how many times you could hit a list.
Yep.
Um, and
So
then as far as the contacts to leads to appointments, well, that lets me know that if there's 13 solid leads, really with experience and better overcoming objections and possibly even being willing to drop door packages and all that stuff like we've talked about, that 13 really could turn into probably 3 to 5 listings very easily.
yeah. Well, here was my observation of it is so on the list you sent, it said 1,008 dials, or it said 1,008 total. But if you do the math on that, and this is why I used the tracking sheet that I created.
Uh-huh.
The one I sent you, the one that's in the listing generator week 2, that you guys, if you're not to week 2 yet, you'll get it in week 2, because it breaks out neighborhood, FISBO, expired, buyer leads, if they're calling buyer leads. And the reason that I find that this is important is what it does is the conversion ratios are different with all of those. So
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're dealing with managing somebody else, it allows them to win because their conversion ratio on new listings, right? If you're calling or new expireds, if you're calling new expireds and you call 20 and you get an appointment, that's actually a pretty dang good ratio. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's a win, right? But but that's going to be very different than if you're calling neighborhoods, because on neighborhoods where you're just calling just listed, just sold, and you're saying, hey, I don't know if you know, but the house on the street just sold, 123 Main Street. It's amazing property. We have 5 offers. Um, Obviously, we can only take one. Do you know anybody in the neighborhood who might be interested in selling so we can help these buyers? Whatever the script, specific script you use,
Sure.
that's going to have a massively different ratio. You might have 100 contacts before you get a lead. Um, and so it's kind of looking at that, but and that's a win, right? For somebody who does 100 contacts and gets a lead, hey, that's a great job. You did amazing, right? But that number calling new expireds or old expireds is not a good number, right? So it's breaking them out. You have to separate them out, so you know when to pat somebody on the back or pat yourself on the back if you're making the calls and say, I did a freaking great job today, or to say, hey, there's room for improvement here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is it taking the time and really for you, because you have people who are dialing for you, is having them take the time to fill that out and to break it out. Um, and it's another step in the process, but what you're gonna uncover from the information is going to be invaluable, right?
Yes.
Because my looking at those numbers, my first instinct is to look at those numbers and think, um, that the somehow the list is bad. But the reality is,
I did inquire on that, and they in reference to what they felt about the list. And
yeah,
again, like I said, I only sent you the one breakdown. However, they did agree that the list was not as good as normal.
right, right. But I think if you broke it out on that spreadsheet though, on that worksheet, that weekly worksheet, um, again, that's provided in step 2. So if you're not in step 2 yet, you won't have it. But that worksheet that's provided there, if you break it out in there, it'll be so obvious. Like, and when you're managing people, providing good numbers is your responsibility, right? That's your responsibility. Their responsibility is to go through the numbers, get you an appointment. Now, if you're calling on your own, you have to do that. You have to manage that yourself. But you play this game in your mind sometimes where when you're calling on your own, and you know this, Elliot, you've made plenty of calls, is
Yep.
understanding in your mind that you your brain will tell you sometimes the monkey mind I call it will tell you that the numbers are bad when the reality is, and it's an excuse to get you to say I'm not going to do this, right? So
Hmm.
your monkey mind says I don't want to do this isn't comfortable, so the numbers are bad. um, Very rarely, and you can agree with me, or right, Elliot, that very rarely
I
is
do
it
agree.
a bad list.
I absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I said, I mean, there's, another thing that was left or in that list that I noticed is that 112 answering machines came on, and then of that, there was an additional 103 or 105 messages dropped. So again, coaching to them is, well, why are you only dropping certain messages? And I mean, it's like if they're not doing the same thing over and over, how do we know what results we're going to get?
That is a very interesting question. Yeah. Did they answer that or no? It's just something that you're gonna
I have explored it a little bit and didn't really get a legitimate answer other than, oh, just sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
huh. Okay. Yeah, so definitely, and explain why for a minute, Elliot, that it's important to have that consistency in not only your script, um, but in your voicemail system or in your process, I should say.
Well, I mean, just the whole, in order to know where you are going, you need to kind of know where you've been. So if you're doing something different every time you're going at it, how are you going to have predictable, duplicatable, and measurable results if you're doing something different every single time?
Yeah. So let me. Would you mind if I share with the group your numbers?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm an open book.
Okay, cool. So I just put up on the screen. You guys should be able to see what we're talking about as far as the numbers um, that Elliot has there for the week. And this is a printout from your Mojo dialer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you can see where you're talking about the voicemails was the answer machine versus where's the other
Drop message.
dropped message? Oh, okay. So you just 7 times they didn't leave a message.
No, those are separate. Those are
Oh,
separate breakouts.
those are separate. Oh, that is interesting.
So as a total, 217 times the answering machine came on. So there was 105 drop messages, and the answering machine was carried 112. The part of the reason why I'm pretty clear on this is because I actually called Mojo reps and went over this with them because there's a couple of different ways to understand it. Because
Yep. Yeah, so a drop a message means that they actually use the dialer system to leave a
pre
voicemail
the
on the
pre-recorded message, yeah,
yeah. Okay. Okay. And so then the answering machine is a total separate number.
right,
So that means that they got an answering machine, but they did not just simply click the button that says drop a message.
right,
So now they were calling old expireds.
correct.
All right. So my experience with calling old expireds is to actually not leave a message. Why did you choose to leave a message?
I like my message that's recorded there. I'll have to figure out how I could send that. And again, it's just one of those things where we do get callbacks. I mean, it's not uncommon to get a callback.
Uh huh.
Um, at the same time, though, I would also say the majority of the callbacks are, "Hey, I missed a call from you."
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is my experience has been that, you know, if my experience has been as soon as somebody identifies the number that's calling them with a real estate, and really this is true with any sales, right? As soon as they associate it with a salesperson, then their habitual behavior is, I know who that is. And even if they want the service, then in their brain they say, I'm busy right now, I'll call them back, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then they really never do. I have a guy, his name's Chuck, and Chuck has something that he wants me to buy. And to be honest with you, I do want to buy it. I do want to buy it. It's an expensive thing. It's about 10,000 bucks, and but it's not something I have to have. It's kind of an ego thing, right? It's like one of those things where you're like, this is totally just puffing my ego, not doing anything else. It's not going to make me any money. It's not going to help my children. This is just an ego play, right? And Chuck calls me all the time. And because I know it's Chuck, I don't answer the phone. And my head says, I'll get back to him. I'll get back to him. And I think a lot of times, like if you can imagine, you have an expired seller, a seller who's expired, and they have, let's say that their house expired 2 years ago, and they have it rented, but the lease is coming due in 90 days. And you call and they see the phone number, they don't know who it is, and then they check the voicemail and they say, "Oh, yeah, that's a real estate agent. I do need to sell. I'll get back to him." Right? And then you go back through the list as we talk about doing, right? We're going to go back through the list again and again. And we go back through the list and we call it again, and he sees the number and he begins to recognize the number over time. And every time he sees the number, he just develops in his head, "I'll get back to him," right? "I'll get back to
Mm-hmm.
that. Oh, that's Elliot again. I got to get back to him." Yeah. And because they have no emotional connection to you, like I like Chuck. I've met with Chuck a couple times. I flew down to Florida to meet with Chuck, and I like him, and I still don't answer his calls. So if I don't
That's a good
really have a
point.
relationship with you, I'm definitely not going to answer the call. So, but here's the difference, though. I am somebody who might desire the product, and this expired listing we're talking about is somebody who might also desire the product too, desire to use your services. So I guess in my head, the reason I don't leave voicemails on old expireds is because my goal is for them to create enough curiosity on who I am that they finally answer the phone, right? Or call
Mm-hmm.
back and say, "Why do you keep calling me?"
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to see the number and remember the prefix or the first three digits. Absolutely. I guess part of the whole leaving a message kind of comes from, just being clear on that value proposition. And when we used to call on notice of defaults so much that, and I mean, that was that whole, hey, I got a buyer hunting in this particular area and they brought this property to my attention as one that they would like to write an offer on. And when I looked it up, I see that there's a little, that there's adverse action from the bank on it. We wanted to call and reach out to you and help you out. So I mean, it was something of that nature, and that again was very successful in getting callbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where this is a different system. I mean, like you said, it's more of a traditional versus a lifeline.
Yeah, and I agree. Like neighborhood calls, I'm all for. I'm all for leaving voicemails in neighborhoods. You're calling neighborhoods, and your message is, like we said before, hey, it's the market's outstanding. We have lots of buyers who are in the area who are looking for homes. Do you know anybody in the neighborhood who might be interested in selling? Please reach out to me. If you maybe yourself might be interested in selling, please reach out to me. Blah 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 blah. That message I have no problem leaving a voicemail for, because in my mind, again, what is my goal within my neighborhood, my target neighborhood, is top of mind awareness, and that voicemail creates that. And sure, it's going to upset some people. Some people are going to be like, "That Sean calls me all the time, drives me crazy," right? Yet they're going to know my name. And when they see my signs in their neighbors' yards, that's just going to reinforce the fact that I'm successful at what I do. So I have no problem with voicemail in neighborhood, because if they don't call me back, it's probably because they're
Yeah,
just
it's
not.
top of mind.
Yeah, they're just not. I still win. Yeah, exactly. It's still a win for me. Um, but expireds are a little different, because, like, expireds, they're so rarely in your target demographic neighborhood, right? They're kind of
Yes.
everywhere. Like you, you know, you have to be you got to be a little more open with expired. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Well, cool. One of the questions that just popped up, Elliot, is on your expired calls specifically, what script are you using?
Do you have a copy of it? I didn't know if you did and can post it. I
Is
can
that
I
the
can
one you
send it if
sent me?
so.
Is that the email?
Yep, that's the one I sent you yesterday. Yep.
Hold on.